On October 28 at the Théâtre du Châtelet in Paris, there will be a new winner of the Ballon d'Or, the highest individual accolade in men's football. By common consent, the leading contenders are Brazilian winger Vinicius Jr., who scored in Real Madrid's Champions League final victory, and Spanish midfielder Rodri, who excelled in triumphant campaigns for both Manchester City and his national team. Should Vinicius Jr. 24 win the award, he will be the first player born in the 21st century to do so. More remarkably, Rodri would be the first winner born in the 1990s. Either would be the first winner to be born since December 1987. Such was the dominance of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, who have respectively won 8 and 5 of the last 15 Ballon d'Or titles, a run punctuated only by victories for 2 of their contemporaries, Luka Modric in 2018 and Karim Benzema in 2022. Messi, Ronaldo, Modric and Benzema were all born in the mid to late 1980s. All were regarded as prodigious talents in their teens. All have excelled deep into their 30s, and only now, in the twilight years of their careers, have they begun to wind down. Messi 37, in Major League Soccer with Inter Miami, and Ronaldo 39 and Benzema 36 in the Saudi Pro League with Al Nassr and Al Ittihad. Modric 39 is still going strong at Real Madrid. Cristiano Ronaldo and Luka Modric, both born in 1985, competing in 2009, both are. The brilliance of Messi and Ronaldo often overshadowed that of a group of players now in their early to mid-30s that includes Neymar, Toni Kroos, Kevin De Bruyne, Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Harry Kane, Antoine Griezmann and the retired duo of Eden Hazard and Gareth Bale. A new generation of superstars, proven or potential, has emerged, including Kylian Mbappé, Vinicius Jr., Erling Haaland, Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, Jamal Musiala and Lamine Yamal. Of this group, Mbappé is the oldest at 25. The rest were all born since the turn of the century, as late as 2007, in the case of Yamal, the prodigiously talented Barcelona winger. But what of those who came after Neymar, De Bruyne, Salah et al. But before Mbappé? When it comes to the group born in the mid-1990s, a group who, logically speaking, should be around its collective peak, there is a gap, not necessarily in talent but certainly in profile, recognition and, upon deeper analysis, representation in top-level football in Europe. Nobody would describe the Ballon d'Or as the perfect barometer of individual performance, but take a look at this graphic that illustrates top 20 rankings by age group since 2008. Away from the clustered center of the graphic, what jumps out is that red area containing just a handful of dots. Selected findings include: Rodri finishing 5th in last year's vote is the only top 5 place for a player born between 1994 and 1997. Beyond that, the only player in that age group to have earned a top 10 placing is Rodri's Manchester City's teammate Bernardo Silva 9th in 2019 and 2023. The only other top 20 placings in that age group have been Frenkie de Jong 11th in 2019, Raheem Sterling 12th in 2019 and 15th in 2021, Sebastian Haller 13th in 2022, Luis Diaz 8th in 2022, none of whom was nominated this time, and Lautaro Martinez 20th in 2023. By contrast, from the younger age group, Mbappé has already recorded 6 consecutive top 10 placings, while Haaland twice, Vinicius Jr. twice and Victor Osimhen have also finished in the top 10. This year's 30-man Ballon d'Or long list, Rodri is one of just 7 players born between 1994 and 1997. The other 6 are Ruben Dias, Hakan Calhanoglu, Artem Dovbyk, Alejandro Grimaldo, Ademola Lookman and Martinez, of whom only Dias and Martinez have been nominated previously. Admittedly, that is just the Ballon d'Or, an award voted for by journalists, drawing on subjective evaluations and almost inevitably, colored to some extent by players' profiles as well as their performance. As a barometer of individual excellence, it is far from perfect, even if its less prestigious rival, the Best FIFA Award, has produced broadly similar results. But it certainly tells you something about the way footballers are projected and valued. And when it comes to that group born in the mid-1990s, there is certainly a deficit. In the cases of Rodri and Bernardo, highly sophisticated players who excel in understated roles at a club that lacks the media profile of the traditional superpowers, that has long seemed more a question of image than of quality. We will come back to that issue. But there is more to this. Taken more broadly, that mid-1990s age group seems to be struggling for recognition not just by fans or the media but within the game. When the FIFA Technical Study Group, led by former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger, published its report on the 2022 World Cup, it briefly mentioned the tournament had been defined by the performances of young talents and experienced masters. Wenger cited the technical prowess, physical strength and mental fortitude of Musiala, Bellingham and Saka at one end of the spectrum and at the other end, of the enduring quality of players in their mid to late 30s such as Messi, Ronaldo, Modric and Olivier Giroud. In the modern game, the young players are ready to perform earlier on the biggest stage, he said before turning his mind to a generation of players who had continued to excel well into their 30s. This, said Wenger, referring to the latter group, did not happen 20 years ago, so it looks like there is an extension of the career at the highest level. What Wenger and the Technical Study Group did not address was the relative lack of impact made on the tournament by players in the in-between age group. That was reflected in the age distribution of players at that World Cup. Of the 832 players called up for the tournament, the highest representations by birth year were for 1997 i.e., age 25 and 1992 i.e., age 30. Those born in 1994, who might logically have been at the optimum age for a World Cup held in 2022, came in at 7th. That might be a mere statistical quirk rather than anything deeper, but there follows a graph illustrating the number of minutes played in the Premier League from 2018 to 19 to 2020 to 21. The findings are mostly as you would expect. The dominant group is the one born between 1991 and 1994, those who were between 23 and 27 when that cycle began and between 26 and 30 when the cycle finished. Think of it as the De Bruyne, Kane, Salah generation. There is a significant drop in the number of Premier League minutes in that time by players born in 1995, i.e. those aged between 23 and 27 over the period in question. Again, it could just be a wrinkle indicative of nothing much. You would expect that age group to become more dominant over the next 3-year period. But they didn't. As it transpired, that 1995 age group got barely more playing time between 2021 to 22 and 2023 to 24, a period during which they were between the ages of 26 and 29. The minutes played by those born in the early 1990s fell, as you would expect, but so did the numbers for those born in 1993, 1994 and 1995, who might otherwise have expected to become the dominant groups over that period. Antonio Rudiger, David Alaba, Lucas Vazquez, Modric and Kroos, and a group of young stars born in the late 1990s and early 2000s including Federico Valverde, Eduardo Camavinga, Aurelien Tchouameni, Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo and Bellingham. Again, that mid-1990s group was barely present. Just backup goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga 1994, Ferland Mendy 1995, and Dani Ceballos 1996. When Nacho and Kroos moved on this summer, the incoming players were much younger, notably Mbappé 1998 and Brazilian prodigy Endrick 2006. It is similar at Barcelona. A handful of players born either in the late 1980s, Robert Lewandowski, and early 1990s, Inigo Martinez and Marc-Andre ter Stegen, and a core of players born in from the late 1990s onwards. Between ter Stegen 1992 and Dani Olmo 1998, there are just 3 players. Andreas Christensen and Rafinha both 1996 and De Jong 1997. An extreme example concerns Chelsea, whose strategy over the past couple of years has appeared to exclude almost any player born before 1997. Their squad last season comprised primarily of Thiago Silva born 1984, Sterling 1994, Chilwell 1996 and a vast core of younger players, the majority of them born since the turn of the century. Sterling and Chilwell found themselves frozen out completely before this season began. Big earners in their late 20s, said to be incompatible with the technical demands of new coach Enzo Maresca. This tendency to focus on trading in the talent market has been decisive in creating this apparent gap. Kayera says, it will become increasingly difficult to find players in that exact age range between the ages of 24 and 30, say who can be true standout players and reference points like Bernardo Silva and others are today. More and more clubs don't really want to waste time working with players over the age of 24 because there's a commercial logic that tells from 25 or 26, the player will lose value. Therefore, the effort and financial resources are directed towards younger players. That has certainly appeared true of Chelsea. But there are notable exceptions. One is Bayern Munich, whose core group includes Leon Goretzka, Joshua Kimmich, Joao Palhinha and Serge Gnabry, all born in 1995, and Leroy Sane, Kingsley Coman and Kim Min-jae 1996. And there are the Premier League champions Manchester City, who have John Stones, Mateo Kovacic and Bernardo, all born in 1994, Nathan Ake, Manuel Akanji and Grealish 1995, Rodri 1996 and Dias 1997. In some ways, that seems instructive when it comes to the profile, technical and otherwise, of the more successful players in that age group. Since calling time on a playing career that took him from Port Vale to Luton Town, Leicester City and Fleetwood Town, Joe Davis has launched a digital marketing agency that supports professional footballers and athletes build their brand. He has studied that subject in depth from a commercial and a sporting perspective. The Messi-Ronaldo era is unique, he says. They created this unrealistic expectation of what it means to be a football megastar. They redefined the ceiling, which has overshadowed much of the incredible talent that came next. Davis feels it is only as Messi and Ronaldo have begun to wind down, away from the intensity of the European football spotlight, that we have allowed ourselves to recognize the talent of players like Haaland and Mbappe. It was the in-between group that, with Messi and Ronaldo in their prime, were overlooked for so long. With his marketing head on, Davis wonders whether there was a commercial aspect to this, talking about the immaturity of athlete branding through much of the 2010s. The opportunities for the modern players to promote themselves are far greater, he says, which is one reason why this new wave of young talent Mbappe, Haaland, Vinicius Jr., Bellingham, Musiala, Yamal and so on has become so big so soon. The word wave is apposite. Whether it is music, film, sport or just about anything else, we are conditioned to see such phenomena in those terms. Sometimes it takes one band, one star or athlete to force a way through and blaze a trail for others to follow. Sometimes there is a desperation to anoint new stars. Sometimes it is the opposition. A desperate refusal to look beyond the zeitgeist and its leading characters. But away from off-pitch image and profile, Davis suggests another factor that has played into the hands of the new wave. A subtle shift in playing styles which he says has been arguably more accommodating to luxury players, or at least to those such as Haaland and Mbappe, whose goal-scoring talents are so extreme that, breaking into elite-level football, they were not encumbered with as many out-of-possession demands as, say, they might have been had they been born 5 years earlier. Davis cites his experience as a 20-year-old defender for Port Vale, playing against an 18-year-old Grealish, who was on loan to Notts County. He was everywhere, tracking back, covering the full-back, pressing our winger, then getting back out to the byline to receive the ball, Davis says. At that time, making it wasn't just about talent, it was also about hard work and discipline, that don't let us down mentality. You see it with Bernardo Silva as well, tremendous quality and intelligence, but defensive intensity and adaptability as well. That era, my era, possibly had different values instilled in them during their breakthrough years, which is probably why they play their game a little more under the radar and in a more structured and workmanlike way. That naturally takes the limelight off them and places it on the more exciting, carefree, creative players, those that immediately capture the imagination of the casual fan. That makes perfect sense. That group of players now in their mid to late 20s broke into senior football when demands were changing due to an increased emphasis on the type of work they did off the ball, not just tracking back but closing down in a structured, organized way. Through the 2010s, the role of the traditional center forward,